What's up everybody, I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2021 Toyota Corolla Apex Edition. So the Apex Edition is a sportier version of the Corolla. It's not any faster, it just has some handling stuff on it. And this one is an SE trim. So you can get the Apex Edition with an XSE, only with the automatic. This one has the very rare manual transmission. And this Apex Edition in general, they're only making about 6,000 of. But this interior is very similar to a regular Corolla, and we haven't done a joint review on a regular Corolla yet. So most of the stuff that we'll cover here is the same as any other Corolla. But if you are interested in the Apex Edition, you get like some stitching here, which has this like light brown color on the seats and armrests and stuff, and that's about it. It's not really a whole lot different than a regular Corolla. And I think they made some nice improvements to the base Corolla here. You know, it was introduced actually back in 2019 for the hatchback and 2020 model year for the sedans. So I mean, there's, you know, lots of soft touch material, which is something that you don't get in a lot of other vehicles in this segment. You know, some interesting color choices here with the white dashboard and stuff, which is definitely out of the ordinary a little bit. So I think, yeah, that kind of stuff, you know, sets this apart a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice. I do like the two-tone. It definitely brightens up the cabin a little bit, having it be this light color. So I think that that's nice for sure.
Yeah, and you even have like automatic climate control, which is something you don't get in a lot of the other base versions of other models. But this Apex Edition, if you want all this sportier handling and stuff, the pricing is crazy on these. So regular Corolla, they are competitive, but the Apex Edition here, this one that we're sitting in is $26,455. And for the performance you get for the money, it's not worth it. I'll go more into that in my driving review, but the interior still is a pretty pleasant place. But anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have these cloth bucket seats here in the SE, and it's more of a, I guess, coarser cloth. You know, a lot of other vehicles have like a silkier cloth these days.
Yeah, it's definitely not that nice in my opinion, and I think if you're spending $26,000, you can get something like a Forte GT, which has fake leather seats, and that's okay, but it also has your heated and cooled seats, which really makes a difference, and that's the same price. So if you're wanting something more luxurious and something that is nicer in a seat, then there you go.
Yeah, so that's one of those main performance competitors that really undercuts this. In addition to that car having more power, yeah, you have much more luxurious seats. You have metal trim in the Kia, and not even just the Forte GT, but a regular Forte. You can load one of those up and still have all those nice features for a little bit less than the Corolla here. But these seats, you know, they're comfortable. I think, you know, the shape of them is good and stuff. But yeah, you have no heating or anything here in the SE trim, which is kind of a bummer. But again, you can go up to those higher trims to get that.
And in addition to all of that, all the seats are manual controlled, so you know, I don't know, I think it's it's definitely a downgrade from some other cars in the same segment.
Yeah, and again, if you're going for a regular base Corolla SE, you know, manual seats is expected, so that's not really a surprise here. It's just, you know, again, the Apex Edition just isn't a great value in that regard. But if you're looking at normal SE Corollas, just know they do have the manual seats still. Next, the steering wheel here in the Corolla, and it's the same as any other Corolla aside from, again, the stitching, and it has a really great 9-3 grip, nice 10-2 notches, and you know, just a few buttons here on the wheel, but it's pretty simple and pretty easy to figure out. And you know, you also have the standard adaptive cruise control and stuff, which is part of Toyota's safety systems that they have as standard, and so that's great. And so everything is very easy to use here on the steering wheel. The gauges are also nice and simple, but very easy to read, of course. Just a nice large speedometer in front of you, tach on the left, and then a little digital portion on the right. If you do go up to an XSE trim, you can get a larger digital portion there in the middle, so that gives you a little bit of a more high-tech feeling, but it still is less high-tech than the Civic, for example, which is an entirely digital gauge cluster. But anyway, on the right-hand side there, you know, you can go through your basic stuff like a digital speed readout, your fuel economy, but it will also show you your safety stuff, you know, a couple other little things, but it's not quite as feature-packed as some other higher Toyotas, which will show you your audio there. But, you know, still nice, easy-to-use gauges, and so no complaints there. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, right up top, you have the nice large 8-inch Toyota touchscreen infotainment system, and it's really great that they make this standard. This is, again, basically like a base Corolla interior, and you have this nice large screen, which is really an awesome thing to have. I mean, it's not the highest resolution for the graphics, it's not the fanciest looking out there, but it just works. You have a volume and a tune knob, you have your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration if you plug it in. You know, it has all the basic, you know, satellite radio, Bluetooth audio streaming, all those types of things, and you know, in a nice display, it's very easy to use.
Yeah, and if you're someone who really enjoys the tech in a car, I'd say this is really nice because you want that bigger screen in a lot of cars and you get it here without spending too much money.
Yeah, so it's a really nice thing they bundle that in standard here. Coming down beyond the screen, you have just those auto climate controls, which are, have just nice simple knobs and a pretty nice little display there for it too. Again, something that's a little nicer than the base models in other competing vehicles. And all this soft touch material around it also, gives it a little bit of a more upmarket feel. But that's it. It's a very simple interior as far as, buttons and stuff. There's very few buttons here. You just have a couple around the shifter and that's it. So we can just move on to storage space. It's also very good here in the Corolla. For a little sedan, they really use the space well. So you have nice large pockets in the door here with a bottle holder built into them. You have a very large pocket in front of your shifter here, and it's nice and open, can fit a large smartphone or something in there, and it's not too far of a reach either, so I think that's a really nice space. Then you have your two cup holders, and then you have the center armrest, which does have a little bit of padding to it, but it's very hard underneath the padding. So I wish the padding was a little thicker or a little extra layer of foam or something so that actually was a little more comfortable.
Yeah, so just make sure if you're ever really wanting to put your elbow down there, don't jam it down because then it'll hurt.
It'll hurt, yeah. It's not as soft as it might look. But anyway, you open that up and then you'll see a little cubby here. You have a power outlet and another USB jack in there. But it is large enough and deep enough you can fit sunglass cases, things like that in there. Maybe not the best in its class, but because you have that large bin up front, I think overall this is one of the better interiors in its segment as far as storage space goes. But the king is still the Honda Civic. That has this massive bin with sliding cup holders and an enormous storage cubby underneath of it, and the Civic is, I think, still the winner hands down as far as interior storage in a small car like that. Backseat space here in the Corolla is actually one of the better ones in this segment. I think it's a pretty good amount of space. So I'm 5'9", be sitting behind myself. I have about 3 to 4 inches of legroom to spare, which is really generous, and then headroom is a little bit on the tighter side. I maybe only have an inch or so of headroom to spare. So if you have a longer torso, maybe you'll have an issue with the backseat here in the Corolla, but if you're tall, just have long legs, I think you'll have plenty of space back there. You do have a little storage cubby in the front there, but there aren't any dedicated air vents or anything back there. But they do have their own little pockets in the doors there, and there's also a full down center armrest with 2 cup holders built into it, and that armrest is actually very soft cloth, and so that's nice for your backseat passengers. At least have a good soft armrest there, and nice to have the cup holders built into there as well, because a lot of others don't really have a full down center armrest in their base model, so it's nice that this does have that. Trunk space here in the Corolla is also very good. So it's a nice long, pretty wide space, very competitive again with all the others in this segment of vehicle, and so no complaints with the trunk either. But yes, that's all our thoughts here on the interior of the Corolla. It's a simple thing, but it works well, good amount of space, and yeah, don't really have too many complaints as far as a base Corolla interior, as long as you're paying base Corolla prices.
Exactly. And it is comfy. It's nice to be here. It's not terrible. You can have cloth seats and still be okay.
Right. It's just that, again, whenever you add on the performance stuff with this Apex edition, it just gets way too expensive. And then this being almost $26,500, you have the Honda Civic Si for a little bit cheaper. You have the Kia Forte GT that's several $1,000s cheaper if you want cloth seats, and if you want the leather like you were talking about earlier, that still undercuts this by a couple $100s. And you have heated and cooled leather seats, metal, all that kind of stuff. And then even if you want to go up to something like a Volkswagen Jetta GLI, that also is about $700 more expensive, but you have way more power in those. If you're actually interested in performance and sportiness, those are the top 3 in this segment for basically the same money. So if you're looking at Apex Edition, price doesn't make sense for this interior and this performance. But if you're looking at a regular Corolla SE, just know this is a really nice interior for the segment of vehicle that it's in. And I again appreciate how bold they are with the colors and making it feel a little bit different, I guess, from everything else out there.
Yeah, it is pretty great.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all of our thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on the Corolla SE interior in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.